everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of Vibration Translation. Today we have Carlos Duran. Is that how you say your last name?
Duran.
Duran. Yeah, I was like, I probably messed it up. All right, Carlos is known as the most notorious spiritual gangster alive due to his journey from gangster to healer. He holds Yage ceremonies, and Yage is the name for ayahuasca in the Columbian tradition. He co-founded the Four Visions online store in support of indigenous tribes, and he is the founder of Savage Encounter, a men's retreat, and Operation Purify, a veterans retreat. And Carlos, I wanted you to summarize, if you can help me out, summarize for yourself. I want to hear these answers from you. Number 1, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
Who am I? That's the eternal question, right? Not to be cute or cheeky, but that's it. In the ancient mystery schools, they would say, above all else, know thyself. So who am I? Like you said, my name is Carlos Duran, and I would say at this point in my life, I'm a servant leader. I serve and I lead. My mission is to return the created to the creator, to help those that have disconnected from God's source, the Great Spirit, that have disconnected from themselves and their essence to return. And I do that primarily through sharing words and sharing stories from the culture that I represent, the Yage culture, as you said. And then when the opportunity is given, we have these retreats in Colombia, either with my grandparents or with my dear brother, John Freddy. And there we're able to share a little bit of the sacred plant medicine that supports people in liberating their shame, their guilt, in returning to their essence, in knowing who they are, in knowing who creation is, and in knowing who the creator is. So that's who I am. What do I do? That was the other question, right? What do I do? I came up with this in a conversation with a friend of mine. I like to think of myself as the baton in the conductor's hand. The conductor is the Divine Mother and the Sacred Father. And what I do is I'm the baton. I'm an instrument. I'm an instrument like many instruments. There are many of us, just like you, Maya, are an instrument. And you listening to this, we're all healers. The first person that we learn to heal is ourselves. And if we choose it, we're all instruments of the divine. So like all my brothers and sisters on this planet, I too am an instrument of the divine, here to express, to learn and awaken in the full expression of my essence. And in that be a mirror of support and reflection to those around me, those who seek to be around me, so that they too can remember their essence and that we all may live from there, from our true essence. What was the third question?
That was perfect. It was
Okay.
why do you do it? But I think you already answered that.
Oh no, the why. I've got nothing else to do. I'm unemployable. Like the only employer I can have is the creator, is God. I can't go to work for anybody. That's not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
No, and I can't just sit around all day watching TV. So I have to do something. So I chose to do this.
Wow, I just chose to do this. So I want to get into your story, right? So vibration translation, I like to ask the question. This is like the seed of like the name vibration translation, which is like translating your state of awareness and understanding your perspective on spirituality, your relationship with God. Was there a point in your life that you would consider you had an awakening of sorts, like a spiritual awakening, or how would you term what you experienced and your introduction to spirituality?
I would say I hit fucking rock bottom. I don't know if I've ever had a spiritual awakening in my life, but I know I reached a place where I was totally disgusted with myself. I reached a place where on several occasions I had a 40 caliber handgun, and I would put a bullet in the chamber, and I would hold that gun to my head with my finger on the trigger. And all I was looking for was a reason to not pull that trigger, because I felt I had every reason to pull it. And that was on more than one occasion in my life. I mean, there was a period of my life where on a regular basis, I was doing that, twice a week for 4 or 5 months of my life. And then sporadically, there were moments where I had suicidal ideations. Um, and that was the rock bottom of my life. I just wanted something different. I was raised in an outlaw family. My father was a prolific criminal, and I was groomed to eventually take over the family business, you could say, the family empire, because there was nothing short of that. When all that fell, uh, due to federal prosecution, my life went upside down, and by this time I was coming into my early 20s, so I was beginning to reflect for myself what life was for me, and I realized that I was a piece of shit. I was a horrible human being, and I didn't want to live with myself anymore. And so that was my moment of enlightenment. I just wanted something different.
So it was from the suffering of your existence, sort
It
of.
was from the suffering that I created for others and how acutely aware I became of that.
Did you was your family religious at all?
My mother is very religious, as a matter of fact. Yes, she's a Baptist Christian.
Did you believe in God, or were you atheist or agnostic?
No, no, I've always believed in God. Listen, most mobsters, gangsters, especially of the Italian and Latin flavor, we all have Jesus pieces. I mean, Biggie Smalls said it, right? Cubans with their Jesus piece. It's very interesting. Like, literally, before we go through something fucked up, we pray to God. The sign of the cross, the whole fucking thing. We go to church, put holy water on, the whole thing. So now, what happened was, my mother, God bless her soul, and my father, God bless his soul, were complete opposites. Like, I still don't understand how they ended up together. There's a movie called Devil's Advocate, and this is very much how I saw my mother and my father. My mother was Keanu Reeves' mother in that movie, and my father would have been Al Pacino, the devil.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, it's I can understand that. But long story short, my mother from a very early age instilled in me a belief in God, a belief in Yeshua ben Joseph and Jesus Christ. And when I hit rock bottom, the way that I tell the story is that a homing beacon went off. This memory that lived inside of me went off, doo, 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 and it started calling me back. It started calling me back to a path of truth, to a path of love. I just had no idea how brutal that path would be sometimes, but it's been worth it. The road to redemption has definitely been worth it. Um, and so, having had my mother from an early age teach me to pray, teach me, I remember her telling me when I was, I couldn't have been more than 8 years old. I had maybe 7. I was so angry. I was such an angry child. And I hated life. I hated my father. And she would tell me that hate is a dark vine. And if you let it grow in your heart, it will choke your heart and take over your life. And so when everything crumbled and I began to go through this what they call the dark night of the soul, somehow inside of me, that homing beacon went off. And that memory to return to God, to not allow hate to rule my heart, began to come back. And it brought me home. It brought me home to myself. It brought me home to a path of liberation.
So over the course of your life, how has your relationship with God evolved? So it started with your mom teaching you, right, how to pray, but you didn't, it seemed like what, you didn't have that beacon of light. I mean, like we all do, right? But you didn't recognize it. It wasn't shown to you until that point.
Well, when I say beacon, I'm talking about the specific memories, the specific teachings of my mother and what she had taught me. But we all have that light inside of us, yes. Except that the noise of the world, whatever it is, whatever that noise is, it begins to dominate our mind. And in that domination, it begins to take over, and we forget who we are. We forget where we come from. We forget that we're divine. And you forget that you're connected to nature, that you're connected to each and every single individual, that separation doesn't exist, and division is an illusion. We forget that, and we fall into the Maya. We fall into the illusion of separation, and that and overthinking the grandparents teach are the primary struggles of humanity, the primary causes of all our suffering and pain.
Why do you think, right, the matrix, so to speak, is set up like the way it is to instill like this doubt and insecurity and suffering in us?
Yeah. So first, I'll answer my evolution with. A lot of people think that because I walk the path of plant medicine, that's the primary thing that I speak about, but it's not. For us, plant medicine is a support system. It's a tool. The primary anchor for our life is our personal, intimate, romantic relationship with our Creator. You could call it God, Allah. You could call it Jehovah. You could call it Yahweh, the Great Spirit, the Most High Source, the Divine, Sacred Mother, Sacred Father. There's all these names. Those are just adjectives, right? The Great Spirit, the Creator of all life, our Divine Mother and Sacred Father, doesn't have an attachment to what name we use. The attachment comes from religious context and things like that. People know because here it says, I think, well, you think that because you read it somewhere. That's the bottom line. When you look at nature, a tree doesn't call itself a tree. We call it a tree. Right? A bird doesn't say, hey, I'm a bird. Hey, we call it a bird. We give things names, right? That's the human way. We give things titles and offices and names, and that's fine because we need to identify things, right? We can't just randomly point at things. So we identify things through our lexicon, through our language. So for me, that relationship with the Creator has been everything because that's the one thing that I have held on to. Even today, when I face struggle, when I face challenges, which interestingly enough, I'm in one of those moments right now in my life. This has been the last 3 years have been an intense process of purification, of learning, of evolution, and flourishing. It's been beautiful medicine, and it has been bitter and difficult. And the one thing that I always come back to is just that daily conversation with my Creator, that relationship with my God, with my Creator, my Divine Mother, my Sacred Father. So for me, that was the string that I started to pull. Instead of pulling the trigger, I started to pull the string. And I just said, well, God, if you're really there, I need to know you. And slowly but surely, the Creator began to reveal itself in my life to me. And I kept pulling that string and pulling that string. And today, that is the anchor point of my relationship with the entire universe, with myself, with life, is because of that deep, intimate, romantic relationship that I have with the Creator, that best friend status, that BFF status. And so for me, that's the one thing. And for so many people, it's very difficult because sometimes we're angry at God, or the Western mind wants to create all these philosophical concepts. But to me, philosophy around God is like philosophy around gravity. It doesn't matter what you say or think. Go and drop a bag off a building and see how fast it hits the ground. There's no philosophy around it. It is what it is. The Creator is what it is. No matter what you think, it's not going to change what the Creator is. So you can either learn about it or you can philosophize about it. The way to learn about it is to have a direct experience. If you're angry at God, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly natural. Children get angry at their parents all the time, right? We've all gotten angry at our parents, and if we have children, we know that our children get angry at us all the time. So the Creator always knew that its children were going to get angry at it. You know, the Creator, the Divine Mother, Sacred Father always said, "My kids will be angry at me here on earth from time to time. That's perfectly fine." But that's your anger, right? Because of your expectation. You know, people say, well, if God existed, you know, there wouldn't be wars or there wouldn't be famine. That's not true. That's man's creation, right? God didn't create M1 tanks. God didn't create nuclear warheads. God doesn't subscribe to the matrix. Humanity does. We create division. We create separation. We pursue the love of money. We pursue the love of material gain. We are the ones that choose to be right and righteous and judge and come up with new ways to create even more division in the name of healing, which is one of my favorite ones, right? And more division and more separation, right? And we point more fingers, and you know, and we steal and we rape and we judge and we criticize, and there's energy, and this has consequences. And this manifests through war, through famine. It manifests through social decay, right? It manifests through injustice because we ourselves are unjust. The world around us is a reflection of the collective conscious, collective soul of humanity. There are no victims. Karma is the perfect accounting system. So if you're not happy with the world is, don't look at God, look at yourself. God is the one thing that can save us all. If we open our hearts to our Creator and we return home to our Creator, that relationship is the path to enlightenment. That is the path to liberation. That is the path to harmony, to peace, to respecting and valuing all life.
Powerful. Powerful. There's that. So you're saying that, so then another question was like, why is there so much suffering in the world, right? Because at least for me right now, I'm having this thing where, okay, like, right, what you were just talking about, like, how do I love the world, God, the universe, whatever you call it, right? When there's like so much like of this like shit happening, you know? So it's like you're saying that the suffering of the world, it's not coming from God, it's coming from our like free will and our choice.
That's right. That's right. Think about how many times, you know, we will go, this is my favorite. We will go, especially the fucking, you know, nothing against Lululemon, but this fucking Lululemon Western fucking culture. Right. Everything is so fucking spiritual strawberry shortcake. Oh, you know, my feelings, fuck your feelings. That's God's honest truth. You know what I'm saying? Your feelings are momentary sensations that will pass. How many times do you go on retreats or you go on weekend getaways or, you know, you buy this amazing spiritual tool, but you don't bother going out and buying or making 20 sandwiches and handing it out to a bunch of hungry people, right? How many times do you walk down the street in your neighborhood, but you won't take a garbage bag and pick up the garbage, right? How many times do we say, oh, I want it, but we don't? We don't volunteer. We don't engage in random acts of kindness. You know, we're constantly feeding our spirit. Oh, I'm learning. I'm going to this course and that course, you know, and that's great. That's all for you. That's all for you. That's fantastic for you. What about the rest of the world? How are you showing up for the rest of the world? Right? There are people that do huge things, right? There are people that save entire forests. There are people that save entire communities, right? But then there's people that pick up the garbage in their neighborhood. There's people that create, you know, you don't need anyone to give you permission, right? You can generate flyers and say every Saturday at this park from 9 to 1, we're having a kids nature day, meditation day, kids yoga, kids breath work. You can do that without anybody giving you fucking permission to do it, but you don't. Right? And then you wonder about the suffering in the world. Right? Or no, you judge. No, because that person loves Trump and they're an asshole for doing it. The divine in them is equal and the same to the divine in you. right? And then we hide behind righteous labels, right? We think that a 4-year-old child or an 8-year-old child has the right to undergo permanent sexual surgery. And we think that's spiritually righteous to support that. That's fucking lunacy, right? And then we wonder why the world's in chaos. Now everybody's against Israel. But in the 80s, everybody was pro-Israel against Palestine. It's the same fucking coin, it's a different side. Can we just be against murder? Can we just be for life? Can we be for peace? Instead of being against so many things, like Mother Teresa said, I will never be against anything. Tell me what you're for, and let's go do that. Can we be for the respect and value of all human life? No, because if you remember a little while ago, Black Lives Matter. All fucking lives matter. What are you talking about? All lives matter. I grew up in the fucking 90s, all right? There was no race. Bro, racist. What are you talking about? Everybody got along. I grew up in a neighborhood with poor white kids, poor Puerto Ricans, poor black kids, poor Cuban kids, poor Ecuadorian kids. We all had the same fucking pair of sneakers with the same fucking hole in the right toe, because that's where we kicked the ball. Everybody, most people are righties. The same duct tape wiffle bats, you know, poor Italian kids, poor Irish kids, right? And now we have, and it just propagates, right? You know, the other one, no, because we have to, you know, decolonize. But what are you talking? What are people talking about today? There's so much anger and there's so many labels, right? And we just keep splitting it and splitting it. More labels, more separation, more division. When the answer is unity. The answer is to recognize that everybody and I are the same and we're all the same. And there's this thing called the matrix, the construct, that is here to create division. It's here to create separation. And every single time that we take up a flag in anger and self-righteousness, we are propagating the matrix. We're not propagating a solution. Every time that I take a stand against something, I am standing with the matrix. Every time that I take a stand for something, I'm standing with humanity. I'm standing with Pachamama. I'm standing with Mother Earth. You know?
So how does somebody, like say somebody's really angry about, I don't know, something.
Smoke a joint.
Like, you know, they had the Me Too movement, which was very interesting. But like say they're really like angry about that and now they're gonna, you know, like what do they do with their anger, you know?
Right. Get the fuck over it. Yeah, get over it. Deal with that shit. Don't fucking displace it on the whole entire world. You know, but I'm gonna give you a kinder, softer answer. Okay, here's the thing. Hurtful things do happen. Okay, when I was a child, I was raped for years. So please understand that I understand. Okay, I had my father break my nose as a child. Like I understand physical abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse. Like I lived it. It's not something that I read about or I'm socially upset about. I lived that shit. I know what it's like to see my mother go to the hospital on a regular basis with broken ribs, to have her mouth swollen like this from my father punching. And my dad was you think I'm a big fucking guy? My dad was twice my size. My dad's wrists were this big, like literally this big. And he would call Cocker. So what do we do with this anger? We have to understand that there are no victims in the world, right? Because we see this moment, right? We see this moment. We see what we see as the injustice of this moment, but we don't see the past lives. We don't see the past lives of our ancestors. We don't go back 3,000 years, 4,000 years, 5,000 years. We believe his story. We believe the story given to us by the matrix that propagates what? Victimhood. It propagates victimhood, right? It doesn't give us the full story. We attach to what happened to me, but I won't take responsibility for how I created that through my own actions, through my own being in this and in past lives. Right? We want to preach pranayamas. We want to preach yoga. We want to preach breath work. We want to preach plant medicine, but we won't go to the true teachings of the source of these cultures. where every single major spiritual path tells you that you have reincarnation as is. It is a thing, it is a fact. We come back, we have evolved from frequency, sound. We have been parts of nature, parts of birds, animals, human incarnations. We have ancestral memory. We have ancestral karma. It's not victimhood. It's taking responsibility. And I know it hurts. And I know that there's suffering. I too cry. I too feel pain. And I take responsibility for what's mine. And for what that's not mine, I let it go. One beautiful method of releasing pain, because forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is not for the matrix. Forgiveness is for you, is to liberate you of that pain, of that anger, of that shame, of that guilt. There's something called the Ho'oponopono method, which is beautiful. I'm not going to get into it now, but Ho'oponopono, you can't even misspell it, because no matter how you spell it, it's going to come up on Google. I actually have one version of it here on my desk. I keep it here all the time. And the version that I worked with for many years now is, I am sorry, please forgive me, I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay? And so we have to take responsibility. I'm angry. I was robbed of my sexual sovereignty. I was robbed of my own emotional or psychological agency. I was robbed financially. This happens, but it's always happening for you. It's never happening to you. When it's happening to you, you're the victim. You're angry. You're self-righteous about it. You're virtual signaling about it. You're in the pain of it. When it's happening for you, you can feel the suffering and still know this is happening for me. Somehow this is for me. This is a karmic balancing that's happening for me. Look, I've made and lost millions of dollars through karmic cleansing. When I talk to you about a vast spectrum of experience on the karmic wheel, I have lived it. It's not theory. So what I'm saying, these are the things that I've used to overcome these hurdles, these challenges, these struggles, these pains. It's taking responsibility and accountability for the fact that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, that I am multidimensional, that I have lived through many lifetimes, I have made many choices, and I have learned and reaped the consequences of choices, both in pleasure and in suffering. Because when it's pleasure, we never question it. When it's good, we never worry about it. That's why the grandparents teach to always be neutral. Never too happy, never too sad. Just be neutral. In truly, the ideal state of going to the grandparents, I mean, I don't live there, but of course I pray to one day get there. The ideal state would be like this. We smile at everything. And we're in gratitude for everything and smile at everything. We accept it all. You know, the one time there's a story about an ancient Chinese wise man whose son got a horse. They gifted him a horse. He goes, oh wow, you know, you got this beautiful horse. And he said, yeah, maybe not, you know, because you're so fortunate, right? And then his son fell down off the horse and hurt his hip. And they're like, oh, you're so unfortunate. Your son is hurt and his hip is damaged. He said, maybe not. A war came to the country. Okay. His son couldn't go to war because his hip was damaged. Oh, you're so lucky. Maybe not. Right. And so it was always happening for him, but he didn't go either way with it. I think that's the ideal. But in this world, being able to release our anger through the Ho'oponopono method, taking responsibility and saying, okay, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm suffering. What am I going to do about it? Anchoring yourself into an intimate romantic relationship with your creator. Developing spiritual tools. What are the spiritual tools that work for me? What can I be in the being of? How do I return to nature? How do I liberate myself from this anger, from this shame, from this guilt, without displacing it on other people? And that's a process, because the pain is real. The impact is real for us. It's a real impact. I'm not denying that these shitty things happen. They do happen. I'm just saying they're happening for us. They're a result of karmic balancing. And when they create pain in your life, there's a lesson there. It's a guru, it's a mirror, it's a teacher. Can we bow before the teacher in the lesson and receive it in humility and release the emotional springs that come up and transmute them Because if we're truly seeking, and we're talking about levels here, right? This is next level shit. These are the steps to spiritual mastery. This is how it works. It works in real time. It works here in the trenches. You don't gain spiritual mastery by sitting in a mountain and meditating for 15 years. Those are stories. I mean, that person that gets to do that, you have no idea how many lifetimes in the trenches they already lived to receive that gift and that blessing. And I'll tell you from experience, I've seen many spiritual teachers that were born in the jungle, right? Super connected to nature, super enlightened. They would appear that way. As soon as they came to the city, they became corrupt because they never had to face temptation. And the moment they truly did, they collapsed. Right? So there's this thing called the matrix. The matrix is designed to keep you trapped in a wheelhouse of emotions and to keep you subjugated as a slave in the fields of separation and division. Liberate yourself.
Yeah, I took some quotes from some of your videos that speak to this, and you said we need to put effort instead of into critiquing, into co-creating, and instead of having an attachment to perfection and suffering, to have one to the joy of existence.
Yeah,
Something like
it's
this.
That's right. It's in the pursuit of life. You know, in the pursuit of life, by remembering that I am love. And listen, things happen, moments happen. And today I was in jujitsu class. This guy almost had me in an arm bar. The bell rang, the round ended, and he kept pressing. And I got so angry. I wanted to, for a half a second, I was gonna punch him. I was like, what? I caught myself, right? So things come up for us all the time. And it's layers and layers, and it's work and work and work. But it's important to have a spiritual path. It's important to find spiritual teachers that you trust that can guide you in this process of liberation, of releasing shame, releasing anger, and transmuting it into self-love, self-worth, and then eventually seeing that love in others.
Now, I have a question to a couple things you said. So, on the topic of like feeling like a victim, do you think that's part of the process? Because I've spoken to other people and they're like, oh, being a victim, sometimes you need that experience, like not for your life, but for like some time to feel like a victim to transmute that energy. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, listen, everything is fair game. If you're experiencing it, it's part of the process. The question is, how is this happening for me? And what am I going to do about it? Am I going to stay here am I going to stay here in this story, or am I going to evolve? Right? Is this the end, or is this the beginning? Am I the forever caterpillar, or am I working to become the butterfly? Right? So it's all fair game. It's all part of the process. And it's all fair. There's no judgment. There's no critique. I know that I'm very direct because that's my job. Okay, there are spiritual leaders and gurus that are very soft and very gentle, right? And that's not me. I'm here for the prison break. I'm here to help you escape the construct of your mind and the construct of the matrix. And that's a hard, dirty job. So I come in with bare knuckles and hammers to break you free. You don't have to come along for the ride. You don't. There's no judgment in that, right? But you do have to make the choice of where am I going to be and who am I going to show up from? How am I going to show up for myself and meet the moment? Will I be in the process? Okay, so I feel like a victim now and I choose to liberate, or I'm going to be a victim and be angry and displace that across the world through whatever virtual signaling I choose for the moment.
And another thing you said was that the universe doesn't care about your feelings. So I watch a lot of like Abraham Hicks and Bashar, and they talk like Abraham Hicks. You familiar with their teachings? Like their
Abraham Hicks, yeah,
vibrational.
Bashar, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Okay.
Bashar, but
So
Abraham Hicks,
right,
yeah.
Abraham Hicks, like the vibrational scale. So what did you mean by the universe doesn't care about your feelings, compared to like the Abraham Hicks? Because they're like the feelings are your guide to discern the communications with the universe type of thing.
Well, there's intuition and then there's feelings. And they're not the same thing. There's a distinction, right? Because we make decisions for the most part, generally speaking, especially in today's Western world. It's all about how I'm feeling. Oh, I feel this. Well, let's akin it to I feel like gravity doesn't exist, or I identify as a bird who can fly. That's great for you.
Yeah.
Go, I'm not going to say go ahead and do it, but in theory, if someone in speculative theory, in a parallel universe where all things were equal and the same, if a person said identify as a bird and they went to fly, they would quickly find out how gravity doesn't give a fuck about how they identify. Right? So you can feel whatever you want to feel. There's still karmic law. There's still universal law. And if you act outside of that, you're going to feel the consequences of that. If you act and conduct yourself within that, no matter how you're feeling, you're still going to reap the consequences of that. Now, there's universal law.
Somebody feels like they can fly, like just grow wings and like go jump off a building. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. People are going to feel like, well, Carlos is very aggressive. That's great. The universe doesn't care that you feel that I'm aggressive. Right? The ancestral teachings that I carry don't care if you feel I'm aggressive. And people make permanent decisions on feelings, and feelings are temporal states of emotions. And you can only sustain a commitment that you made on feeling as long as the feeling lasts. That's why people work so hard to stay angry, because they've identified with causes and beliefs that they attach to in the moment of anger. And the only way they can stay committed to that is by staying angry. Right? So, you've been married for 15 years. Right? And we don't educate ourselves. Here's another great example. There's ebbs and flows in every relationship. You speak to people who have been married 30, 40, 50 years, they will talk. People have been married for 7 years. There's ebbs and flows. All of a sudden, you've been married for 15 years and you're feeling bored in the relationship, and you've got 3 kids and you divorce, and you blow up this entire family because of a feeling. The consequences that you're going to reap, the universe doesn't care about how you were feeling. You made a decision, and there's cause and effect. So when I say the universe doesn't care about your feelings, what I'm saying is that there's universal law. There's karmic law. And it doesn't matter how you were feeling in the moment. When you make a decision, you're subject to the consequences of the decision, indifferent of your feelings.
Okay. It's interesting. I understand what you're saying. That I'm just trying to connect to the other teachings I've been listening to. So for example, Bashar likes to say, like, his main thing is follow your greatest excitement within the moment. Like not an excitement as in like a pleasure or a temptation, but an excitement as in like what like sparks up your heart or your soul, what feels right for you to do, kind of thing.
That's not the word. The word is intuitive. If you're talking about heart and soul, you're talking about intuitive guidance, which is very different than a feeling.
Okay,
it's intuition.
So that's what I'm trying to talk about, the intuition.
Intuition is very different.
How does somebody discern then, if they don't know how to discern between feeling, I feel like, versus this is,
Well, that's a great point. Let's assume that almost everybody in the Western world is attached to their feelings and very detached from intuition. Right? If you're watching if you're in an echo chamber, like you're watching a bunch of things on Instagram or TikTok or the news, and it's the same thing, and it's creating a feeling inside of you like, oh, this is what I got to do. No, you're subject to feelings and emotions, and you've been psyched out, right? So intuition comes from the heart. Often, so we have to train for that. It's a very subtle thing. It's a very fragile thing. And many times it's a whisper. Until you really learn to connect to the voice of your heart, it's a whisper. And many times it's the scary thing to do. And it is exciting. You want to go for it. You want to, maybe, you want to go to India and study yoga in an ashram, or you want to go and you want to go to Colombia for 2 years and study plant medicine, or you want to start this new business. You want to write this song or write this book, right? You're going to write the sculpture and make this, but it's scary, right? But you feel it here. You feel it here, like here, right? That's intuition talking to you. That's your soul talking to you, right? And so the first thing is to understand that it does require practice. It's a development. Tuning into the voice of your soul, tuning into the voice of your spirit, tuning into the voice of your ancestors, of your heart. It's a practice. You have to really begin to listen And that's why quieting the mind is so important. That's why prayer is so important. And prayer for me is a conversation with creation and the creator. That's why breath work and yoga is so important. That's why having a plant medicine is so important. There are many spiritual doors. It's important to have doors in your spiritual doors in your life that you can go through so you can begin to remove the noise, begin to remove the heaviness that allows you to connect more, that allows the spirit and the heart to be woven together. Because the spirit speaks to the heart and the heart speaks to you. So we're a transceiver with mind, body, and spirit. The heart is supposed to guide. The heart is the one supposed to call the shots, not the mind. And that's another big indicator. If it's a feeling coming from your mind, look out. Because the heart is the one that's supposed to call the shots. The mind is supposed to chart the course. Okay, heart, what do you want to do? All right, here's how I think we should get there. Through logic, deduction, reasoning, scheduling, figuring it out. The heart wants to create a painting, right? And then the mind goes into its creative flow. Right? But the body has to execute. Right? So the heart says, hey, listen, I want to go down the street. I want to get to the store. Let's just say we're going to go to the store. The mind says, okay, we're going to go down the street, make a right, make a left. All right, the bridge is out, so we're going to have to go around. The body says, okay, I'll take care of it. And they all work together to get the job done because we are mind, body, spirit. So it comes from here, and you really feel it here. Like you really feel it in your heart, and you'll know. And it's very persistent, and it doesn't go away. And at first, it's a quiet whisper. And then it begins to grow louder as you listen to it more and listen to it more and listen to it more. It becomes more clear. And that's a practice. It really is a practice that we engage in. And like I said many times, it's the scary thing to do. It's the difficult thing to do. And there is a twinge of excitement to it as well. And it's never angry. It's never in judgment. And it's never in violation of universal and natural law.
That's a good one. Ooh, that was a good one. Well, I want to get back to your journey. How were you introduced to ayahuasca or Yage?
Well, that's a great question. So I used to work. There's a longer version of the story. I'll tell you the short version of the story. I used to have. I actually created the first organic farm to table online distribution business in Costa Rica. There was no one that did it before I did. I created a network of organic farmers. I created a website. I created online ordering forms, and people could order and have this food delivered to them once a week. And I also had a stand in an organic food market in my favorite, if you know, it's a Caribbean town. It's the Caribbean town in Costa Rica. And if you know, if not, I'm not going to say because I don't want to blow it up anymore. It's been blown up already. And so I had a stall there in the farmer's market. And my dear friend Tristan, shout out to Finca Inti, he just invited me, he said, hey, you want to go drink ayahuasca? I was like, oh yeah, dude. Somehow I don't even remember where in my head, I keep trying to figure it out, but I remember being somewhere like 16, and I keep thinking I watched this movie Medicine Man with Sean Connery, and that's where it came from. But I remember thinking that I had to move to Brazil in order to drink this ayahuasca that I wanted to drink. And so when he said, I was very excited. I said, oh, who's serving it? He goes, oh, Shaman. I said, oh, shamans are very dangerous. We have to be careful with it. I didn't know. I thought it was some kind of weird dude that's going to steal my soul or suck my spirit out. And so I was very skeptical, but he told me the guy had a good reputation. And long story short, that guy's been my teacher for the last 13 years.
Did you have experience with any psychedelics before you were 16?
Well, yeah, look, it's really, right around that time is when I started. So it's really important to understand that from the point of view of the plant medicine culture, the sacred mushroom, ayahuasca, anything that is a natural connector to the spirit realm is not a psychedelic to us. We refute that as a label. That's a label from the matrix that has been forced upon us that we do not adhere to nor agree to receive or have placed on us. We're not a psychedelic and we're not a hallucinogenic. The ancestors teach that this is a dehallucinogenic. We're here to dehallucinate you from the hallucination of the illusion that we live in, that is the matrix.
So what does the term psychedelic mean, like from your perspective then?
So for us, psychedelic is something that's synthetic that creates an altered state of consciousness. Like LSD would be a psychedelic,
Right.
And DMT, synthetic DMT, could also be because there's natural DMT and there's psychedelic DMT or synthetic DMT, and that would be a psychedelic as well.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, like, it's illegal in most parts of America, right? And so if you take it here and then it's like, yeah, you're getting all this crazy like hallucinate. It's made out to be like, oh, this like fun little hallucination ride that you can go on and whatever, like in the entertainment sphere. When you say hallucinogenic or psychedelic.
Yeah, I mean, and so I certainly did my fair share. I dropped a lot of acid, dropped a lot of ecstasy for sure. I was hardcore. I was first generation raver. Like the rave culture started with my generation.
How old were you when you started?
Oh my God, I started going to raves. We called them parties when I was about 16 years old. I was going to nightclubs and Limelight, New York City, Palladium, Tunnel, Club USA, Club NASA, Vinyl. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The original cruise. We were there.
So would you not like recommend people taking synthetic psychoactives? Or is it just the way you use it?
I don't think I'm qualified to tell anybody what to do with their life, unless they specifically come to me and ask me, what should I do with my life? And then we can have a conversation about what you think and how I can help you get to that conclusion. That's a great question, Maya. They certainly played a great role in my life. I would say this. One of my this tribal elder that I studied with, his name was Johnny, interestingly enough, in Costa Rica, the tribal elder. He would tell me, Carlos, there's order and there's disorder. But first, please let us have order. So I would say that before having synthetic DMT, before having a synthetic experience, I would say seek the natural experience. Seek a place in Colombia or Brazil or Mexico that is highly recommended, that holds a tradition, that holds a culture, that has a good reputation, where you can go and not just drink or receive the medicine, but also receive the cultures, its instructions, its preparations, because everything has a diet, the dieta, or as people in the Western world call it, the dieta. But it's dieta, and so everything has a preparation. And so whether you're going to have the sacred mushrooms or the sacred toad or the sacred vine, I would say find a place that holds a lineage, where the elders there have a good reputation, where it's well recommended, and go have your experience there. That's what I would recommend.
Why is the lineage important?
Wow, because that's everything. Because these medicines were left in these regions, and many of them are 5,000-year-old technologies. Right. And so to go to the source of it, to understand what's the proper way to communion, the communion of receiving a sacred sacrament. What is the way that I should prepare my mind, body, and spirit to receive it? What are the teachings of this culture? What happens in the tradition after I receive and have this experience? How do I integrate it into my life? Not like today's Western world, where there's people that they go to 50 ceremonies, all of a sudden they come back to California, the US, and they're shamans and they're spiritual and they're hosting ceremonies, and it's a mess. Traditionally, people have to prepare for decades in order to receive these opportunities, to have these doors, and you have to study with a teacher. You have to really, this is the tradition. This is the way that it's been done for thousands of years, right? And it's so funny because in our culture, we would wake up in the morning and with our wives and our children, we would go tend the fields. Our harvest, we would go tend the fields. And then the women would come back home with the children and they would teach the children, instruct the children. And the men with the older children, with the older boys, would go out to fish and to hunt. And then they would come home in the early afternoon, early evening, and they would prepare the game, they would prepare the fish. They would sit with their wives, they would sit with their children, they would sit with community. We would eat, we would drink, and then we would go at night and we would go make love to our partner. And this was our life, day in and day out. Communion with the earth, communion with the stars. When the women were blessed with their moon, they would go to the red tent and receive the wisdom of the grandmothers and weave dresses, weave baskets, and create art. And then only the Western man thought that he could improve upon this design. And look what we have now. Cities, 9 to 5. How great it is to have a 9 to 5. Wow. Woo! So awesome. So awesome. Oh my goodness. We did it.
Yeah, everybody's really happy here.
And this is part of the virus that runs in the Western world. We see where monkey see, monkey do, and we always think we can improve on it. Oh, I saw the indigenous people do it 50, 60 times, therefore I know how to do it already well. Oh, but this is my way of doing it. How can you say in the face of a 5,000-year-old tradition that you have your way of doing it? What is that? There's 5,000 years of wisdom. And you're saying that based on your 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years of exposure, you now have your way of, no, because my intuition. No, those are your fucking feelings and it's your ego, right? And so that's really important because to your question, in the modern world, there's a lot of places that have access to plant medicine, that are serving plant medicines, but don't represent a culture. They don't represent the tradition. And so when that's missing, the lineage is missing, the connection, the frequency.
The ancestors and all that.
The ancestors are missing. In the ceremony, they're not there, they're not present. I had an amazing opportunity to sit with an amazing sacred mushroom elder. Her name is Madre Alejandrina. And she was talking to me about her experience with synthetic mushrooms. And she said, that she took them and they spoke to her. And she said, well, you feel a lot like regular mushrooms. And they said, but feel us. Where's the wind? Where's the stars? Where's the sun?
What are synthetic mushrooms?
So, or indoor mushrooms, or laboratory mushrooms grown indoor, not grown in the wild.
Okay.
Not grown in nature, right? Because now in the West, everybody has grow rooms in their homes, and they create cross strains that would never happen in nature. And we think that's a great. Even now, I was like, oh, I didn't know, But when I sat with her and so this is why receiving that ancestral wisdom is so important, because then we learn. What does the tradition say about this? What does the ancestors say about this? And when you connect to that, as you so wisely said, Maya, when you connect to the lineage and you have the ceremony, the ancestors are present. Those 5,000 years walk with you. Very different.
So what do you think is the most prominent shadow within the spiritual community?
Oh, fucking ego. Everybody wants to be a Reiki, yoga, plant medicine, breath work, life coach, manifester, entrepreneur, healer. How can you have 10 titles? So what's the one thing you do great? What's the one thing that you excel in? Don't tell me it's in every one of those titles. That's not true. Right? So in the biggest shadow in the spiritual community, it's SoundCloud spirituality. Recently it was a big boom. Everybody was a SoundCloud rapper. Dude, you're not a rapper. You're not a rapper. You're in SoundCloud, right? You're just a person with a mic that's recording shit and putting it on SoundCloud. And so just because you have medicine, and because you went and you sat with such and such a tribe so many times, and you were able to buy the right feathers and the right necklace and the right gear, which is accessible to anyone. Anybody can buy this gear. It's not hard. It doesn't make you a spiritual guide. It doesn't make you a healer that's prepared to carry and transmute the energies of other people to be a vessel for that work. Right? So there is a lot we in the spiritual community, there's a lot of lying to ourselves, and then we lie to other people. One of my favorite things in the shadow of the spiritual community is fake it till you make it. You're going to fake helping other people until you make it. Listen, true spiritual work is the temple of doom. Like Indiana Jones, the temple of doom.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot guide people through the temple of doom unless you've guided yourself several times through it successfully. And there's just a lot of Lululemon, strawberry shortcake spirituality in today's world. People want to take, Yage, the sacred ayahuasca, and take the sacred mushrooms and put them in a chocolate. Where in the tradition do you see that?
I think a lot of people want to find, meaning to their lives, and so because now you can get a certificate. Like, I mean, I have a certificate for Reiki, sound healing, whatever, but like I don't even know, like I just have these things because I was interested in them, but I don't like use them really. But it's like, it's just accessible to like get that stuff and then be like, this is what I am, like this is who I am now. Like, you know what I mean? So like I see this ego, and like I totally see it in me too. So how do we get over this ego, right? Like the awareness, obviously, but it tries to hide, right? Yeah. The ego likes to hide.
Well, so one thing I want to clear up, the experience is great. Go out and get certified in Reiki. Go out and get certified in sound healing. Go out and the experience is fantastic. But the certificate doesn't make you a teacher, and the certificate doesn't make you qualified to guide others. Your experience in applying that to yourself successfully, and from the point where you have fallen and gotten up 1,000 times, from the point where you have used this as a tool to actually point to success in your life, then from that point of experience, you can guide other people.
I think like the school system we have now kind of like alters that, right? Because you get a certificate, all of a sudden, I have this and that, and I'm qualified to tell you, and now people are going to listen to me. Not that it's like, obviously, like it's good that we have people that study and then like in medicine and whatnot know what they're talking about, but in terms of like the concept of like I have a certificate, now I'm better than you.
Well, yeah, better or qualified to lead you or qualified to guide you, which is very different. So I think acquiring experiences in life is fantastic, right? That's a beautiful thing. And it's very different. It's very different going out and having the experience, getting the learning, and having all that great time doing it and enriching yourself. That's fantastic. At some point in time, you have to isolate and focus on what is the thing that you feel called to in your heart to bring to the world, which is very different. Okay. Now, to the question of what is that thing that's happening, it's called spiritual bypassing, right? Because so that I don't have to look at my own shit, so I don't have to deal with my own deep pains and my own darkness, I go out, I get certified, and now I can focus on fixing other people's problems, right? So now I don't have to focus on my own problems. But I'm telling you from experience, from having doubled over 13,000 people, and one of the things that I do specialize in is in working with other spiritual leaders. I can tell you that most people out there today are faking it. They put out messages that they don't truly live. Behind closed doors, they collapse. Their word has no commitment. They have financial fears. They're living on somebody else's couch. They're not really manifesting a life of prosperity and abundance in mind, body, and spirit. They're falling down. They collapse behind closed doors. They're full of fear and doubt. And they put up all these other labels and all these other stories, and they make these really cool reels and these really cool posts. And then they charge people money, but they themselves are not successfully living that path. So how do you deal with that? Do the hard work. Go into your shadow. Really raw, unedited, unfiltered work on yourself. Where do I judge? Where do I criticize? Where do I not show up for myself? Because this isn't about the areas where you are doing, it's about the areas where you're not doing. What is my relationship with the creator like? That's the fundamental thing of all things. Not fairies and not angel guides, which is great. Not poo-pooing that. That's great. Fairies are great and angel guides are great, but they're not the creator. They're not source. They too are the created. Said source. So what's your relationship with source like? And then how much division is in my vocabulary? How much division is in my thoughts and my actions? Right? What am I virtue signaling? Do things happen for me or to me? And that's the path of mastery, self-mastery. Do I have something to prove or do I have nothing to prove? And a lot of things that I tell you, right, these are things that on a daily basis. I'm in no way saying I've mastered all this, but I've come to understand that this is the school of mastery. These are the things that I can work on too in every area, many areas. Sometimes a little bit deeper, a little bit more, maybe you would call it an advanced curriculum, but curriculum nonetheless, learning nonetheless, studying nonetheless.
I just have a question about like the Ayahuasca Yagé ceremonies, right? Is it possible for a person to go in their first ceremony and like become like, I don't know, whole? Like, because I've had that, like, right, like, is that possible? Like, you just need one ceremony and then, like for what person would that work? You know what I mean? Because for me, I felt like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I've gone through lifetimes, but it's like, oh, it just keeps going. It's like more things. And it's just like, I like the plants. I like the plants, so I keep coming to them,
Well, there's different reasons to drink plant medicine. So for example, I've been doing this 13 years. I've lost track of the number of ceremonies that I've been in. I've drank 1,000 cups of medicine in my lifetime right now. But I do this because it's my life path. It's my study. It's part of the work and service that I bring into the world. And yet, every time that I drink, I'm also healing. Every time that I drink, there's something in me that's being peeled back and peeled away. A layer of shame, a layer of guilt. The point about telling my path, and the thing is because people ask, well, how many cups, how many sermons? My grandparents have taught me that some people only need one ceremony. And that's all because how do I explain that this isn't a path for everybody? It's a supplement for everybody. I've been going to yoga classes since I was like 20 years old. I am by no means a yogi, right? And yoga is not my life path, but it's a supplement to my path, right? I enjoy breath work. I think breath work is fantastic, right? I wouldn't say it's my practice, but I supplement with it. I supplement with it. So everybody has their life path, okay? And ultimately, your spiritual path is your life path. However you choose to live your life, that is a reflection of how you're honoring your spirit. Okay. So for some people, my grandparents have told me that all they need is one ceremony, and they're going to get everything that they need in this lifetime for them from the Yage in that ceremony. I don't know if every culture in plant medicine teaches that. I know that the Yage culture teaches that. And I've seen for myself, I have seen people that have come for one retreat and they do a couple of ceremonies and that's it. Their life changes forever and they go on to do other things. They go on to develop other. One girl comes to mind. I don't think she ever drank plant medicine again, but she completely hated her life. She accused me of being vile and disgusting. And 6 months later, she called me up, Carlos, thank you so much. Oh my God, you guys saved my life. I'm now a breathwork coach and I'm learning Qigong. And this became her life, right? From just one simple retreat. Shout out to Rhythmia. That was a retreat at Rhythmia in Costa Rica, Rhythmia Life Advancement Center.
I have their pen right now.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, see that? There's their pen.
They're massive. They're a massive beacon of light in this world. Shout out to Jerry as well, who founded that. And then there's people that I have seen come for what you would call a marathon, right? They come retreat after retreat after retreat after retreat after retreat. They'll go to Rhythmia and then they'll come to Savage Encounter or they'll go to my teacher's farm in Finca Ambiwasi, And and they're 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, boom. And that's it. They're good to go. And then there's people that come, what I call for the spiritual oil change, once a year or twice a year, just to get a tune-up, just to get clear, just to release some stuff. Because the important work, the grandparents teach that the important work isn't what happens in the ceremony is very important, but what happens after the ceremony is far more important, and how you live your life between ceremonies, right? Because the medicine is a facilitator. It facilitates an encounter between yourself, creation, and the creator. It does this by purging the mind, body, and spirit of shame, limiting beliefs, past memories, traumas, and impacts, and by removing barriers of limitation and reconnecting things that have been disconnected. From that point on, you have to do the work, right? So you can do the work without the plant medicine, for sure, right? You can do the work, but you have to do. You said, look, like I said, there's many spiritual doors, there's many spiritual tools. The question is, what are the tools that you're going to use to heal yourself, to heal your ancestral karma, to heal the lineage, to heal your own karma, release your shame, your doubt, to connect deeper with yourself, with creation, with the creator. So yeah, 1 cup, 30 cups, 1,000 cups, it's all fair game.
Thank you. And in terms of Ayahuasca Yagé, how does one avoid involving like the spiritual ego, spiritual bypassing, and misinterpreting messages from plant medicine and like exalting their ego from them?
Okay, so I'll start with the last one first. The way that you avoid misinterpreting, and this again, why that lineage is so important, why that tradition is so important, is whatever messages you get in ceremony, whatever visions you receive, it's important to speak to the guide. Right? Whoever was guiding that ceremony, this again, why the lineage is, if it's some person that I don't know, that just, they're going to give you their idea of it. But, in fact, here's the thing. In our tradition, the last rite, the last initiation that you receive is interpreting visions. So, for example, I studied 13 years before I was allowed to begin to interpret visions. 13 years. And I'm like, look, and not just 13 years, because like my teacher says, it's not just the number of years, it's what you did inside of those years. You're looking at 13 years with 50, 60, 70 ceremonies a year. I mean, and a lot of work and living in the jungle and sitting at the feet of grandparents and studying, and you see, so how do you avoid the confusion? Is you speak to the elder or the guide of the ceremony, and you say, hey, listen, this is the intuition that I got, this is what I saw, this is what I felt, and they will help you clarify. They will help you understand what the message means. Because many times we hear what we want to hear and we see what we want to see. No, and look, and we all have ego. We all have. That's why in the tradition they also say it's important to check 3 times in the medicine. To check. This is what I saw, and then check again, and then check again to see what comes up each time.
So you mean like ask the medicine what it's showing you?
Yeah, on 3 different occasions.
Mm-hmm. Is it true that ayahuasca can give people like direct messages, like to do certain things?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Yeah, that's one of the visions. It's called celestial guidance. It's guidance. It comes in your own voice, the voice of someone else, or intuitively you feel that this is what you need to do. This is the direction you need to move in. But never in violation of natural law. Like there's people that have gotten the message. Oh no, they have to. They're in a healthy relationship, and but they're bored of their partner, and oh no, that you have to change partners. That's not what the message is saying. But they want to hear it that way, so they choose to see it that way because that's what they wanted to hear in the first place.
It's kind of like that brings to mind like tarot cards, oracle cards. Like you can interpret the message that you're getting from the cards with your mind however you want to.
That's right.
Do it. Yeah.
That's right. And that's why having that guide, that teacher, that grandmother, that grandfather, that elder that knows the way, that can show you the way is so important.
I want to get into like your study with Yage. So from what I understand, like Yage you study with the Columbian tradition, and how was that? Like, what was your study? Like, I know that the Shipibo tribe, they like diet, they have dietas, I don't know how you say it, with the master plants, and then over the years, and whenever they have the Icaros coming out of them, then they're ready to be a shaman. That's how, from my understanding, that works in the Shipibo culture. I don't know, how does it work with the Colombians?
We watch Netflix,
What does that mean?
but once you watch enough Netflix, you're ready to go. You got to watch a couple of movies a couple of times, you're good to go.
You have to explain because I don't understand what you're saying
No,
over there.
I'm just kidding. No, it's same, different. Same, different. We have our uses and our customs. We have our elders, and we have diets that we practice.
Diets,
And
do you mean like master plans? Like, I don't know. I did Bob and Sam, Chirisanango. I don't know.
yeah, Bovine Sana. I don't like to mention them in recordings, but if you mention Bovine Sana, yes, we drink Bovine Sana. Other purgatives, other plants that we work with, other plant diets that we do. We do a lot of diets of the mind, dieting the mind. In other words, what is my mind attaching to? What is my mind consuming? Right? Where are my thoughts constantly going? And then seeking the source of that and removing that from within myself, transforming that within myself. You drink a lot of medicine, a lot of pooping, and a lot of vomiting. Sure.
Do you still like purge, like when you're in ceremony? I mean, for like when you're hosting ceremony for other people, do you purge their energy or your own as everything's just coming up, or?
Yeah, right. That's a fair question. Sometimes you are purging your own, and sometimes you are a vessel to move the energy of those in the room.
So you said you studied for 13 years?
That's what I've been so far studying. It's the study part's a forever thing. You never stop learning.
And when
I
did
hope
you
not.
know? When did you know that you were like ready, like within that tradition? Like when did you know you are ready? Like I said, from what I understand from the Shipibo tribe, you sing Icaros, like they come out of you from the plants, right? How do you know within the Colombian tradition that you're like ready, to like host ceremony?
Well, you don't know that you're ready. And in fact, the more ready you think you are, the less ready you are.
Oh my God.
The guy that you follow, will see it in the medicine and will prepare you, because there's many types of healing in our tradition. The weaver is a healer, the painter is a healer, the singer is a healer, the musician is a healer, the storyteller is a healer. The one that leads the ceremony is just another healer in that tradition. Okay. Some heal with the words, some heal with the Icaros. There's many ways to heal in our tradition. And so your guide will begin to prepare you for that. I listen to my story. This is never what I wanted, and if I had known then what I know now, being perfectly honest, I don't know. I don't know that I would have gone through it. I might have been like, wow, that's what I have to go through. I'm gonna skip.
You never know what's gonna happen, in the ceremony.
Yeah, no, not just the ceremony, my life and
Your
everything
life.
that I've had. Yeah, because the ceremony is just one aspect of it. It's your life. Your life is how I live my life is what I bring into ceremony, right? Whether I'm a helper or a guide, or a helper guide or guide helper, whatever. How I live my life, that's the energy that I'm bringing into the ceremony. And so around year 7 or year 8, I began to tell my teacher and my grandparents that, listen, I'm asking the medicine if this is my life path. I'm not getting an answer. And I love what we do here, but I don't know that this is my path. I don't know, and I don't want you guys to invest all this time and all this energy in me and then, like I leave and they would laugh and they would tell me drink more medicine. They would laugh and tell me drink more medicine. And then one time I was preparing to support my teacher in a ceremony, and I got a call from one of our sisters that said, listen, the teacher's not going to be able to make that ceremony. He said for you to go and serve the medicine.
So that was your first time, like holding the space?
That was my first real time. I had a few other moments where, like I would say, like the practice sessions and training wheel kind of moments. This was the first real deal, like really. And I wasn't in a place to hold ceremony. I had a lot going on in my life. I didn't feel prepared, but I trusted my teacher and I trusted the universe that, if I'm the one that's being called, I guess that's kind of what it is, right? And so then I went to that ceremony and I go into a very deep process where I don't feel anything, I don't hear anything. I was just in darkness. And it felt like I was there forever. My companions told me that I was there for about 90 minutes, but I felt like it just felt forever. And it wasn't like a bitter darkness. I was just sitting in the dark. Like I was just aware of darkness, no sound, no movement. It's just an awareness of just everything around me was dark space, And towards the end of that process, a voice comes to me and says, this is your path and don't forget it. There was no grandmothers bathing me in the river of life. There was no grandfathers blowing the sacred tobacco from the celestial realms on me. None of that. Darkness, eternal darkness, and then a voice.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
The medicine has a sense of humor, that's for sure. And then I remember waking up or coming to consciousness just shortly after that. But in the moment, I didn't think anything of that voice. Like it wasn't like booming or so. It was just like a conversational voice. Like, hey, this is your path, and don't ever forget it. But when I woke up, the moment I opened my eyes, I felt inside of me something very different. Very different. Very different.
Now, that was your time hosting the ceremony? Mm-hmm. After you drank the cup, you just went into that darkness for like 90
No,
minutes?
it was the second cup, the second night.
Okay.
Second cup, second night. Everything was practically ending. It was over. It was 2 nights of ceremony. But when I came to, I was different inside. I felt it. I fucking knew it. And still brings me to tears. To be so blessed. To be chosen. To be chosen to do this work. To have the opportunity to hold the cup of my ancestors. And 5,000 years of sacrifice, of commitment, 5,000 years of bringing healing into the world. And I was blessed with that opportunity, that gift, to be one of the grandchildren. Yeah, it was quite a moment. And it was very unceremonious. But I mean, it's been over 2 years, and truly, when I go back to that moment, I connect to it like I just did now. Those tears come every time because I am just so overwhelmed with gratitude. So overwhelmed with gratitude that I was given that opportunity, that my grandparents and my teachers just kept telling me, drink, just keep drinking the medicine. And here we are, now we have men's retreats, we have veterans retreats, we have men's programs. I'm working on women's programs with my grandmother, helping my grandparents build a retreat center. We have Heaven and Earth Ancestral League, a nonprofit that raises scholarship money for veterans. And that all happened from that moment forward.
It's real.
So, yeah, it's very real.
Wow.
It's very real.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that's wow.
You ask great questions.
No, I feel like the other questions I want to ask I'm not gonna be like. Why do you call yourself a spiritual gangster?
I don't. It was a moniker given to me, and I really liked it, so I went with it.
It's just a nice name.
I like, well, somebody said it calls it a spiritual gangster, and then somebody else said, I said, wow, I really like the way that sounds. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. People say, oh, you're an angel, but spiritual gangster, I like. Because look, the thing is, I was a gangster long before I was fucking spiritual, right? I was literally raised to be a fucking gangster. Like, I was raised for that. I was bred for that fucking life, right? I was about that fucking life. On God, that's how I fucking live. And so that shit is so entrenched in my veins that to be able to take and to see how it works, and it fits so perfectly, the mindset, right? The mindset when inverted from selfishness to selflessness, that unbreakable mindset, that grind, that hustle, that by any means necessary, that we do it or we die in the process of achieving it. Like 50 said, get rich or die trying. Heal the world or die in the process of doing it. To be able to take everything that I learned on the streets and see how well it works for spirituality, how it strips all the bullshit away, all the fake gurus, all the fake shamans, how it brings to the forefront what's important, what's the priority, right? And to be able to see the dichotomy of where I came from and how so taking division, separation, and selfishness and applying it to unity, compassion, and service, it's the same lessons, just applied differently. And to me, that's fucking unbelievable, right? That I still get to be G'd up and in service of God, in service of life. That's fucking everything.
And what does being savage mean? Because that's another thing you have on there.
Be savage. Stay savage. Be beautiful always. Savage is our raw, wild self, the heirloom self, the natural seed, that being that used to squat in the wild to take a shit, that would pee on a tree, that woman that would let her blood run to the earth, that would eat with our hands, that would feed our children with our hands, that a child would suckle the mother's milk under the stars, that we would bathe in the ocean and the rivers naked, that we would walk across the earth barefoot. Savage beings that live a beautiful life.
That's cool. Thank you for that description. Now, with your experience with the plants, Yage, now what's the difference between Yage and ayahuasca? This is just a different combination of plants?
No, actually, so the way that the grandparents teach it is that there's different types of Yage according to the region. So Peru, Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia, parts of Venezuela, and there's different names, and there's different names even within the same countries. But the grandparents teach that all forms of ayahuasca are different trails up the same mountain that bring you to the same encounter, an encounter with yourself, with creation, the creator. Now, the trail is different. The journey is different because it's a different trail, but it's bringing you to the same place. So in most areas, in most cultures, there's only two main ingredients, and the other ingredient is just water. there's a vine, there's the copy vine that's boiled in water to prepare it. And then there's a leaf that's boiled in water to prepare it. Okay. In other places outside of Colombia, they use something called chacruna, the chacruna leaf.
In Peru.
In Colombia, we use something called chagropanga. So that's one physical distinction, right? Now, some cultures add other plants and other herbs to it, but I'm not familiar with that. I've never received that medicine. I've never studied it, so I can't speak to it. But in most places, let's say 95, 98% of everywhere, 99%, I don't know, somewhere between 95 and 99.9%, it's the leaf and the vine boiled in water. Some places take longer to prepare, some places take less. Every place typically has a tradition or a ritual for the harvest, a ritual for the cooking, the songs, the prayers, the way that it's prepared. Yagé seems to be recognized, it seems to be more intense than other forms of ayahuasca. Many other ayahuasca ceremonies last a couple of hours. They might last like 6 hours or so, where the Yagé ceremony typically lasts 12 to 14 hours. The other plants, from what I've been able to, and please understand that I have only drank Yagé for 13 years. I've never drank, till this day, I haven't had a calling to drink another form of ayahuasca. It's not that I wouldn't, it's just it hasn't, because I've been studying this one lineage and this one plant, and 13 years may sound like a long time, but believe me, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing in our culture. What I've come to understand from conversations and from textbooks is that other forms of ayahuasca can be very visionary. They're like very big on the pinta, on the visual messaging, the visual experience that you have. Where Yagé, it is a visionary plant, but its main purpose is to purge. It's a purgative. It purges the mind, body, and spirit of limiting beliefs, of ancestral memories that no longer serve you, of traumas, of impacts, of disconnections. And it cleanses, it removes things that keep you from experiencing joy, things that keep you from experiencing happiness. It brings forward ancestral balancing or karmic balancing for yourself and the ancestors through the purge, through this liberation. And it seems, for the most part, generally speaking, it is a more concentrated experience.
Okay, interesting. I've only had Yagé once, so I don't remember like which ceremony it was. But I want to ask, so to you, like, who are the plants? Like, is this an entity, a consciousness? How do they communicate with us?
That's a great question. So in our tradition, I'm only speaking from the tradition that I study. And I only speak from my understanding of these things. These are very important to clarify. So what I say to you is what I've come to understand from what has been shared with me. And maybe I got it all wrong. Okay, that's really important, right? And I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to say, oh, okay, yeah, that was, I misunderstood that. So in our culture, the grandparents teach that us in creation, us in nature are one. Nature is our brothers and sisters. We are the same molecule, the creator that created nature created us. All right, so it's like basically like the same blood, or the same spiritual blood that runs in nature runs in us. So we're one. There's no separation. We're literally you, me, the tree, the jaguar, the dog, the cat, the bird, the grass, the ocean, the stars, the mountain, the wind. We're all the same. We're all one. Okay. Then from there, the teaching is that ayahuasca, the vine, the copy, the essence of the medicine, the frequency of the medicine is primordial wisdom. So in our culture, they teach that when the creator, when the divine mother and the sacred father were bringing forth life into this world, they first called forward the essence of ayahuasca, the essence of Yagé, to witness the creation. So its wisdom is from the point of view of having witnessed creation from just before the very moment that it was brought forward, and having witnessed the entire story of it as it's unfolded or evolved. How do they communicate with us? They communicate with us every single day. Through every breeze of wind, through every chirp of a bird, through every sensation you feel with every drop of water in your shower, in the pond, in the lake, in the river, in the ocean. Every time that you walk barefoot on a blade of grass, nature's communicating with you. And there are studies done on this, on how working with the earth and having your hands and feet connecting to the earth actually changes you neurologically, because it's communicating with you. And then, of course, there's the ceremony where the mind becomes silent and the spirit is connected to the spirit of life. And there's no separation there's no separation of the mind, and the information, the connection flows. You know, how else does it communicate to you? It communicates with you through your spirit, which then communicates to your heart, which then communicates to the essence of your being. It also communicates with you through your dreams, through random conversations, through random passages in a book. It's always communicating with us. Whether we listen, whether we choose to hear what we want to hear, what's being said to us. You know, I know someone who an elder said to them, this is what you, and I've seen people, I've actually think of two people right now, and two different elders told them, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I witnessed that, I heard it, I saw it for myself. And they both, well, you know, in my heart, I feel that God's telling me to. But God just used those elders as an instrument to speak to you. And now you're choosing to do something else. So there's always communication, whether we choose to hear it or hear it to our own bed. I have a very wise friend, and one time he really caught our teacher off guard. The teacher said, did you understand? He goes, I understood half of what you said, and to my benefit.
So just reflecting on my experiences.
They're valid, and they're important.
Right, but it just feels like, you know, on plant medicine, it's just like, and I could tell you, I could have a discussion with you all day long, the things I've seen, the things I felt, the things I thought that it was, but then it's like, dude, this is like, it gets so crazy, you know, like, so it's like, it just feels like some of these things, I'm just not gonna know what that was, or it's just gonna be what I'm thinking about it, because you know the things you see when you take this medicine, it's you know, it can take years just trying to talk about it. How do you like, right, so it's a community, maybe I saw something, maybe I felt it through me, all of the things and all of the above at the same time, right? But then it's like, what is that? What is that, you know? Sometimes it's like, what is that? And I know people say, oh, you'll understand later down the line when you're like 80 or something what that was, but like, what was that? You know, like I wanna understand. Like what?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, you know, so it's very hard to say what that was without having been in that ceremony, right? That's always very difficult. Because, and I've seen it, I've seen two people have the exact same vision, and my teacher gave I mean, I'm talking about the exact same vision, down to the, you know, down to the black dot on the left corner, let's say, right? Like that minor detail. And my teacher gave two completely different interpretations.
For the individual people.
Same vision. I'm talking about they had like the brain link going, right? And it's a completely different interpretation for each one. So it's very difficult. And it's true. Look, so here's the settling part. The part that's beautiful about this is that your soul receives these messages and downloads them. They're written, these messages, these visions, they're written in the stars, in the wind, in the water, in the mountains. And they're written in your soul. So they're there forever with you. And whether it's this lifetime or next lifetime, in the moment that you need it, that information will be unpacked for you. You will understand what that was in the moment when you need it. because it will be there for you in a way that is clear, that it's understandable and applicable to you in your life.
It's cosmic information.
It is what it is information from the cosmos. It is. And sometimes it's information that comes into the soul simply to reprogram the being, to realign us, to recalibrate us, to balance us. It's the Western mind that wants to know everything all the time. So many minds. The fish never ask a fucking question. The birds don't ask questions. The deer that's being eaten by the jaguar in the jungle isn't asking, why am I being eaten by the jaguar? And the jaguar sure as fuck isn't asking, why am I eating the deer? They literally surrender to the flow of life. Right? The Western mind wants to understand everything, wants to analyze everything. Why don't we just surrender and accept divine will, cosmic order? Just a question anyway.
Because then we're not in control, as perceived by us, in control of our realities.
Yeah, and isn't the truth is that control is an absolute 100% illusion. We can't control anything. No, you can't even control when you go to the bathroom. I can't say I want to pee right now.
Do you need to go right now?
No, but even if I wanted to pee and my body didn't want to pee, I couldn't control that. I can't control if I breathe or not.
Well, you could stop.
Right, and I'll pass out and I start breathing again.
Yeah. I want to talk about oneness. So you already kind of talked about it, but what is oneness to you? Specifically, like for me, it's interesting because it's kind of like this thing, the ego versus God. In oneness, it's all one, but the ego makes it out to be so it's not, so we can have these separate experiences, right? What do you think about it?
So it reminds me of a question you asked me before about why the matrix. Kabbalah has a great way of explaining the why the matrix. It's because we need an opponent. There's no growth without resistance. Mm-hmm. Right? A bird cannot begin to fly unless it has the resistance of the shell, the egg that it's born in. A butterfly cannot fly unless it presses out. Like if you literally bring a butterfly out of the cocoon, mm-hmm. It won't fly. It needs to press. And the same thing for a bird. It needs to break that coating, right? A seed grows in a very dark, lonely, damp place by itself. And it has to break out of the shell and break through the ground in order to become a tree that gives good shade and good fruit to eat. If you want to have muscles, you need the resistance of exercise. If you want to develop your brain capacity, you need to have the resistance of mental challenges. Right? If you want to become a great orator, you need to have the resistance of overcoming the challenges of public speaking and learning the art of communication. So there is no growth without resistance. So because we are here playing a game, right? The game of life. And because we're spiritual beings here learning the art of co-creation, we needed a resistor. We needed, the way Kabbalah explains it, we needed an opponent on the board. Mm-hmm. Like because without an opponent, an antagonist. Yeah. There you go.
I have the mystical Kabbalah somewhere over here.
Right. So without the antagonist, it's just us looking at each other like, oh, kumbaya, motherfuckers. We're love and light anyway, so let's just roll with that. Right. But now we have an antagonist, a villain, right, that comes in and creates plots and subplots and sabotage, right, and creates division and separation and illusion.
And there's a story.
Ooh, right. Oh, many stories. And now we get to make a choice. And we get to come back and make a choice again and learn and live. Ooh. Now it's intriguing. Now it's exciting, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why we have the matrix, in order to provide that excitement, that opponent, right? Oneness. This is oneness to me. Okay, let me see if I can set this up for you. Let me see right here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. Let me put it on you. Okay.
So this is the way we live our life, right? John and Mary and Lucas and Taisha, right? And we're all separate, right? And there comes Maria, right? Oh, we're all separate. We all live our separate lives. But when you look at it, we're all part of the same hand. And when you look at it, we're part of the same arm and we're part of the same body, you know? And so you're the left, we're the right. But when you look at it, it's the same. It's like, what are you guys doing? Your hands on the same body. You can't attack each other. You're one. You're one. You're one. Right? And that's oneness. Oneness is the truth and the reality that there's no division, there's no separation between you and I. Oneness is that you and I are the same. Oneness is that you and I in nature are the same. Oneness is acknowledging the truth that separation and division is the illusion and that the reality is the oneness because there's only one source, one creation, one life, one love. That's the great Bob Marley said.
So within oneness, I just remember I had this acid trip where I had a psychosis because I was like, I just went into this thought, right? I was having all types of things going on, but I was like, okay, if I'm to accept myself, and if I'm like, now I probably was like identifying my ego with everything, but if I'm like everything, right? Then I got to accept everything to accept myself. So then I started going into the darkest possible things I could go into. And then I had, like, that was probably the worst day of my life. So it's just the thing with the darkness within creation. And like, I know we spoke about that a bit, but it's the darkness is part of the oneness. It's like the yin yang, you know?
Right.
And I just have a hard time.
You're using your mind.
Yeah, I just have a hard time like accepting because I'm part of that too, you know?
Right, because you have a hard time accepting the dark side of yourself. So if there's two things. Wait, let me bring me back to the dark side in a second, because I want to address ego.
We'll go to the light
us,
side.
God gave us ego.
Mm-hmm.
Ego is not to be killed or destroyed or overcome. Ego is to be brought into harmony and balance, in service and surrender of the greater good of the greatest purpose. Ego gives us drive and passion. Ego brings us to purpose. Ego helps preserve our life. Ego is our friend. But ego is like fire. Unchecked, it can rage or it can smother and be of no use. But used wisely, used in balance, it provides warmth, provides light. It's a source of life. So many things we can do with a fire that we know how to harness. And so many things that we have to fear from a fire that we don't. And this is ego. Ego is a beautiful thing. Ego is our friend. We have to learn how to work with our ego and love our ego. One of the things, going back to the spiritual gangster part. So one of the things that allows me to be me and to do the work that I do is because I am so comfortable with my darkness. I don't fear it. I'm not ashamed of it. I know that I can be an evil, dark motherfucker. And I'm good with that. I choose something different. I choose something different. We can never be a full expression of our light until we love and accept the full expression of our darkness. The inability to balance and accept darkness in the world is a direct reflection of an inability to accept and balance darkness within self. Because without darkness, there could be no light. For where would the light shine? Where would the light reflect itself off of? If you had no darkness, could you ever see the stars or the moon? No.
You know, and it's just it gets really hard because then you think about all the stuff that happens in the world, and you're like, oh my God.
Well, what is it that happens in the world? What is it that happens in the world?
Just everything.
Yeah, everything happens in the world, but so what? I mean, we're choosing that, right? Listen, look, people choose anger, people choose judgment, people choose to criticize, people choose to be self-righteous. People choose to participate in a system that creates these things. So what are we so upset about? Now, opt out of the matrix. Opt out. Opt out in every single sense of the word. Create community. Create unity. Stop labeling. Stop doing stupid shit. Stop thinking stupid shit. Stop forcing your points of view on other people. And stop criticizing people for their points of view. What's really important? Most people don't even know what a fiat currency is. FIAT, fiat currency. Most people don't know what when you go to buy food, what the number 4, you know how everything today has a sticker on it? But so when you go to the store and you pick up an apple or a banana and there's a sticker on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll have to start with the number, have a sequence of small number. It'll start with a 3, it'll start with a 4, it'll start with a 9. Most people don't know what those numbers represent. They buy food every fucking day. So 3 and 4, when the sticker has a 3 or 4, it is petrochemical agriculture. It's got pesticides, herbicides, fertilizer. The number 9 represents organic. Now most people don't even know why they should be buying organic food instead of pesticide foods. You know, we do things that are ironic, right? We for some people, they talk about decolonization, we have to decolonize. But within the concept of decolonization, you're causing more separation. You don't have to decolonize, you have to return to creator, you have to return to source, return to love. Because now you're just placing a blame, oh no, look, it's the white man. You know what? I grew up do you know what a Section 8 neighborhood? A Section 8 neighborhood is a welfare neighborhood.
Okay.
I grew up in a Section 8 neighborhood. Okay. The only people I saw selling heroin and crack in my neighborhood were other Latinos and other Blacks. I never saw a white man with blue eyes driving around with a shotgun saying, "You all spicks and niggers, be poor." Not one. Not one did he say, "You all motherfuckers get hooked on this junk. Have more babies than you can afford to raise." Not one. We did it to ourselves. But it's easy to play the victim game. That there's prejudice here, there's prejudice there. There may be, I've certainly experienced prejudiced people and prejudiced situations. But to live in the anger of that, to want to destroy that system instead of spending time building a new system, is a foolish endeavor. It's just, again, more division, more separation. You're actually just being a slave to the matrix. It's when we begin to build unity, when we begin to build community, when we let go of all this virtual signaling, all this need to be right, and we just want to be in love. Why doesn't the universe care about your feelings? Because there's natural order to things. There's natural law to things. God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't put a man in a woman's body or a woman in a man's body. And that's not judgment. That's just the folly of humanity. And that's fine. If you identify, if you're a man and you identify as a woman, that's great. But to then go beyond that and want to force other people to accept that, and to want other people to force children to accept that. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. That you're breaking the laws of nature, and there's consequences to that. You want to say that this country killing this other country is right, It doesn't matter what country it is. Killing is wrong. It's against the law of nature. Humans are not meant to kill humans. That's not what we're supposed to do. Because we don't eat each other. There's no benefit to killing. We kill out of rage. When the lion eats the lamb, it doesn't do it in anger. It's not because it hates the lamb. It's following its natural order. When we kill, we do it out of anger.
Mm.
See how different that is? We do it out of
Yeah.
judgment.
Yeah, so when you're saying another thing to the feelings, like the Matrix, it feeds off the drama and the like getting emotions and emotional reactions out of us to do the things that it wants us to do.
It counts on it. It needs
Yeah.
it. That's the copper top.
That's the
That's
what?
the copper top. If you watch the movie The Matrix,
Yes, I have.
and they call the people in the pods the copper tops because they're feeding the Matrix. And in the Matrix, it's electricity. But in life, it's really fear, it's anger, it's hate, it's judgment. Listen, for me, if you watch the original first three Star Wars to understand the Force, if you watch The Matrix to understand the construct, and you watch Monsters, Inc., you should be an enlightened, liberated human being. I'm serious though, right? If you watch Monsters, Inc., you'll see how its energy in the beginning, they harness the fear of the children to feed their world.
Why is this all in the
And
movies?
and in the end, they're harnessing the laughter and the joy, and it creates better energy. You know why it's in the movies? Because it has to be in plain sight. We choose to see and hear what we want because we're so invested in our emotions. We're so invested in our feelings. We want to be right instead of being with God. No, because religion sucks. Great. Has nothing to do with God. Again, people with books and ideas. For me, religion can be fantastic and it can suck. You know, I've seen how religion helps a lot of people, and I've seen how it hurts a lot of people. I've seen it to be a conduit to greater understanding, and I've seen it to be a prison. Again, how we choose to live it. Do I choose to believe the person on the pulpit and the book in front of me, or do I question beyond that and seek my own personal, intimate, romantic relationship with my Creator? Will I give my agency and sovereignty to someone else? Or will I take full authority over it, responsibility and accountability for my relationship with the Creator, for my relationship with my wife, for my relationship with my children? Not the way some pastor or some deacon tells me to do it, or some nun or some priest, or some guru or some plant medicine guy tells me to do it. How do I experience it in my intimate, romantic, personal relationship with my Creator according to the laws of the universe and the laws of nature? And there's that.
If somebody doesn't, because in this, like in the Western society, I feel like a lot of people come to a conclusion that it doesn't matter, it's pointless, kind of like not nihilistic a little bit. How can they get out of that, when it's like they don't believe that anything really matters, and then it's like there's no purpose behind what they feel like there's no purpose behind their life.
That's the choice that they've made.
So they have to recognize that that's a choice.
Yeah, it's like, listen, if you would have come to me when I was driving a Jaguar XK8 candy apple red with cream interior convertible, $60,000 in my safe, a gun under my car seat, my passenger seat in the back seat full of women, and you would have told me, hey, listen, the life that you're living has no value. It's not, bruh, miss me with that shit. I'm doing me, I'm living my life. So sometimes we're in a moment, we're in a groove, we're in a frequency that we have to have that experience to bring us to a breaking point or a point of realization, right? It doesn't have to, sometimes it is to bring you to your knees. Sometimes not. Sometimes it should bring you to a point of clarity. You don't always have to lose everything like I did to gain the world. But, like the good book says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul in the process? Right? So where you're at, sometimes it's just in a place where there's nothing that can be said to you. You have to experience it for yourself. And then you reach a point where you're willing to reach out to others and absorb information, and then begin to see how that's going to transmute and change your life. Right? It's the thing, right? You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Sometimes And here's the thing: when the person is ready, they'll ask on their own, they'll seek on their own, they'll begin to activate their own soul. Will say, okay, good, now we're ready to go this way. Because no matter what you choose, here's one of the cosmic jokes. No matter what you choose, it's all part of your cosmic evolution. It's all part of your spiritual school. You could be the worst dictator in history, or you could be the greatest saint, and anywhere in the spectrum in between that. And it's all part of your spiritual school and evolution. You know what's really important? Spirituality is hard work. So remember to have fun and laugh along the way. Enjoy the process.
Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing. Do you want to let people know about any links you have, any offerings, so they can
Yeah.
find you down below?
Yeah. So you're always welcome to reach out to me on social media: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's all Carlos Duran Live. TikTok, Carlos Duran Live. I think TikTok might be Carlos D Live. But anyway, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for sure. Carlos Duran Live. So feel free to reach out to me there with any questions that you have. If you're a man and you're looking for the most powerful transformational experience on the planet for men, Savage Encounters for you, brother. And if you're not sure it's for you, but you're curious, please go to savageencounter.com and you can book a free call with me. I'd be happy to get on the phone with you or a Zoom call and just talk about what you're looking for and to make sure it's the right fit for you. If you have a veteran in your life, or you are a veteran and you're ready to come home in mind, body, and spirit, you're ready to fully heal, or you're a family member of a veteran that would like to join us on our Veterans Retreat, Operation Purify, you can go to operationpurify.com and book a free call there with myself or with Ryan Carey, who is the co-facilitator and co-organizer of Operation Purify, an amazing man with a lot of military experience. And that's fantastic. If you're interested in teachings of my ancestors, which is our men's course, please reach out to me. If you're interested in Cycles of the Moon, which is our women's course that my grandmother teaches, please reach out to me. How do you reach out to me? Go on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, Carlos Duran Live, and send me a message. You can also send me an email, carlosduranlive@gmail.com, and just put vibration translation in the subject line. I'll know it's from this show, and me or my team will get back to you right away with any questions on how to support you. In the meantime, I want to thank you, Maya. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for sharing this message. Thank you for this platform that you're creating. I know it's making a difference in the world, and the content that you're bringing forth is changing people's lives. It's empowering them, it's educating them, and it's entertaining them at the soul level. So thank you, Maya, for having the courage to do this. And you watching this, wherever you are, please know that the divine in me sees and recognizes the divine in you. May the Divine Mother, with her living waters, forever refresh you and renew you in mind, body, and spirit every day. May the Sacred Father guide you, guard you, and protect you. May the love of the Holy Spirit flow to you and through you and bless your home. May all things in your life come together for your highest purpose. And may your spirit and the spirits of your family forever flourish in the celestial garden of our Creator in excellence and elegance. God bless you, and God has protected you always. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
This is Maya. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this episode. If you'd like to support the podcast, rate, review, comment, let me know what you think, and you can visit vibrationtranslation.com to purchase from the shop or donate. All links are down below, and I sincerely appreciate any and all of your support. Thank you, and I'll see you for the next one.